Good morning to you all, and welcome to this discussion on the topic today, way to serenity and bliss. Once a follower approached the Buddha and asked him, "O adorable one, what is the secret of your countenance always being serene and peaceful? We have never seen you sad or unhappy, dejected or depressed. You're always in the state of calmness. Kindly teach us this art of living and make us useful." Then Buddha smiled and replied, "My dear child, if you practice and realize one truth in life, you can also achieve that state." Being curious, the follower eagerly asked, "What is that state?" Then Buddha said, "The truth is that everything is temporary and changing. Nothing is permanent. Everything changes and is momentary. When one knows that sorrow as well as happiness is just a passing experience, then one will not be heartbroken or proud. The egotistical nature of a person possessing riches or power vanishes when one realizes that it is not permanent. Where will his ego or sadness exist when he understands the nature of this world?" Hearing this, the follower said, "If a person knows his pleasure will be over soon, his happiness will disappear, and he will have a sad and gloomy face." Buddha said, "My dear child, as you understand, so you experience. But your realization on this truth will create real change in you." "Is there anything that will never change?" the follower asked. The Buddha smiled and said, "Yes, my child, the truth that everything changes will never change." The seeker sincerely reflected on this profound teaching of the enlightened one while the Buddha remained silent. So also we need to know the truth of life. Everything in this creation is changing except one who is creator, one who is omnipresent and watching everything. That divine power does not change. When everything is changing, there is no reason to become proud, to become sorrowful, but still, as human beings, we always go through this up and down, different phases in our life. We are passing through a very difficult phase of life at present. For almost 18 years, 18 months, 18 months we are going through a real difficult time when most of the countries had to enforce lockdown. Our normal life is disrupted. And in many parts of the country or the globe, slowly life is coming to normal. Because of this pandemic, we had suffered a lot. We couldn't connect to each other. We couldn't do many things which we were doing normally. But on the other side, if we look at this situation, we got a beautiful opportunity to meditate more. While working from home and not only we could get the time for meditation, but also we could get time for our families. There are people who are not able to give time to their families, and because of that they had problem. But now we have learned a lesson and we have to move forward. I'm happy that today we have gathered at least virtually to see each other and discuss something. So let us come to the topic today. The topic is way to serenity and bliss. This beautiful picture, if you see, she is our disciple. She is my student, and she practices a little meditation and mantra, which I had initiated her in Colombia, but very sincere student. In our day-to-day life, if we look around, we find that most of us are facing one or more problems which I have listed here. And as we are in the modern life, our lifestyle has changed, and so also our problems are also increased. Most of us, we have to go through stress, and this stress is not bad, but if we do not know how to overcome the stress or how to handle it, then we become stressful and our life goes down. Most of our energy is lost in dealing with this stressful situation. Although stress is also positive aspect in our life, if we know how to handle it and how to use it. Another problem which we have seen, and these problems we have come across more during this period of pandemic in last 18 months. People have undergone a lot of stress, financial stress, as well as stress related to their own family life. They have gone into depression. Many of them, they had called me and telling that we are getting depressed, what is going to happen? And that has led us to the state of fear. There is some imaginary fear. There is some fear also which is real. But most of the time, what is going to happen tomorrow, it is related to imagination. And at the same time, we have also seen in the globe, in this time, there is more violence. In many parts of the world, more violence has erupted. And another aspect I have seen, that broken relationship. It is very funny that when people were working together, because some of the people came and they complained to me that when they were working, they were spending more time out of home, and now they're all locked up. During this lockdown, they have to stay with the family members, and if they are not going along, then they have more quarrel. And because of that, there were some more cases of divorce here in this country, in USA. However, these problems are always existing around us, and some of them we also face at different period of time in our own life. The question is that if we analyze these problems, stress, depression, anxiety, fear, violence, anger, all these problems are more related to our mental state, or we can say that our mind is responsible for that and the effect we feel on our body. But if we could manage these things by managing our own state of mind, we can not only overcome these problems, but we can also become more successful, more loving, more humble, and grow in wisdom. So these are the common modern problems in our day-to-day life or even in society. What is the way? What is that we are searching for? Definitely, we don't want to live in this state. We do not want to be stressful or depressed. We don't want to live in constant fear. And fear, it can be loss, fear of loss, losing the job, fear of losing our relationship, fear of Death even, which we have seen when people were dying around us because of corona, it also created fear in many people that, oh, tomorrow what will happen, we don't know. Maybe it can happen to me. However, we cannot live in that constant fear. We have to come out of that. And also we cannot be living in a violent atmosphere. So there has to be some way. What should we do so that we can manage the situation? Remember, we cannot change the situation outside because these are the external factors. But what we can do, we can change our state of mind. We can bring our own transformation and we become strong enough to deal with these situations and change them by changing our outlook. So all these problems are related to mind. Now, if we see the opposite side, these are the negative sides of our mind. But if we look at the positive side, we are always searching for, or we are made for that. So what are those positive qualities which we want to remain in all the time? And so we are searching for peace. We are always searching for peace. Whatever situation is there, we try to make our best effort so that there will be peace, whether it is in family, in community, in the country, or within us. We want to live in blissful state and we want to experience joy all the time. And definitely as human being, we are living entity and we always want love. Remember, everybody wants love and everybody should give love. But problem is that we don't want to give, but we want to receive. Unless we learn how to give, we cannot receive it. However, we are searching for peace, bliss, joy, and love in our life. We are not here for being angry. We are not here for being in depressive state, but we are here to be in love, in peace, in joy. What is the way? How we can achieve this state? As Buddha said in the story, that we should know the truth. And if we know the truth, we can always remain peaceful, calm, and joyful. So, as I told you that if we analyze, we find that most of these problems are related to our own mind. Mind is a subtle instrument. Although we have not seen mind, but we see the effect of mind, means how it is playing within us, that we can see. If we try to regulate our mind, if we try to pacify our mind, it does not work all the time, because whatever efforts we are making, they are based on our logical thinking. For example, if a person is sad, or if a person is angry for some reason, and naturally as a friend, we give some advice. And this advice is that you should not become angry, you should not be sad, everything is temporary. All these are rational thinking or logical analysis. It works only for a while. It does not create a long-lasting impact because our conscious mind is not sad. Sadness, anger, or these negative tendencies, they are deep lying in our subconscious or unconscious mind because of our own past experiences. So we have to address it at that level. And here we try to regulate the mind, we try to pacify it with logical thinking. However, it is very difficult to regulate the mind. But there is a way in the practice of yoga philosophy. If you read the classical text on yoga, which is Hatha Yoga Pradipika, in the second chapter, second verse, a very simple solution is given to maintain peace and calmness. And it says, Chale vate chalam chittam, nishchalam nishchale bhavet, yogi sthanutvam apnoti, tato vayum nirodhet. The simple meaning is, if our breath is restless, our mind will also be restless. If breath becomes calm and quiet, then mind becomes tranquil. Because breath and mind, they are causally connected. If we regulate one, we can regulate the other one. Yogis, they knew this art of breath regulation, so they regulated their breath. And because of that, when we regulate the breath, we can regulate the mind. When we regulate the mind, naturally our mind can experience more calmness and peace. How do we do that? And that is what we learn in the path of Kriya Yoga. Just by regulating the breath, we can regulate the mind. And mind is difficult because to regulate, because it is subtle and it is an instrument. Mind is neither good or bad, but it is a subtle instrument which is difficult to regulate. But in case of breath, it is possible because we can take long or deep breath, we can take shallow breath, or we can stop the breath, hold the breath for few seconds. So we have better control over the breath as compared to the mind. So in the path of Kriya Yoga, we regulate the breath and eventually we regulate the mind. I'll give you how breath and mind, they are correlated. Our Guruji has written in the book also. There are some scientific data from our day-to-day life. We can observe ourselves that how activity and breath rate changes. For a normal human being, as per the yoga philosophy or medical science also, average human being is breathing 15 times in 1 minute, which is our normal breathing rate. But when we are becoming angry, because sometimes situations come when we lose our temper and although we don't want, but we become angry. And when we become angry, our breath increases. It becomes very fast and rapid. So it increases from 15 to 40 breath per minute. Some of you might have heard the name of a yoga guru from India, Baba Ramdev. So once Baba Ramdev was telling that if you become angry for 1 minute, you lose the energy which is equal to 3 days of your food. So after taking food 3 days, whatever energy you collect, and you just lose it in 1 minute. However, if you are having a physical relationship with your partner, the breath rate goes 24. From 15, it increases to 24 breath per minute. And when you are sleeping at night, at that time, you are taking long and deep breath. And breath rate reduces automatically. It goes to 10 to 12 breath per minute only. And when you are very joyful, very happy, at that time, if you just observe that how your breath is moving in and out, and you can see that your breath is only moving for 8 to 9 breath per minute. So these are the day-to-day situation when you can observe that with each activity or each disposition of your mind, the breath is changing. Now this is happening automatically without being conscious. So as the breath changes, so also our state of mind changes. Suppose you are very happy and suddenly something happens, something is told to you which is unpleasant, and you become angry. So immediately your breath changes. Now what is happening? As I said, that in deep sleep state, our breath reduces. And if you observe that after having a deep sleep for 6 hours, 4 hours, When you get up in the morning, your whole body is refreshed, rejuvenated, your mind is peaceful, you're very energetic. What really happens during that time which makes you so happy, so peaceful and energetic? The reason is that this slow, long and deep breathing during deep sleep and the reduction of breathing rate makes the difference. Now it happens without being conscious. That is why Paramahansa Yoganandaji said that sleep is unconscious meditation. And meditation is a conscious sleep. Means in meditation, we are fully conscious of what is happening, but the state is like a deep sleep state. But you are enjoying it consciously because it is a blissful state. So if we can understand and if we can learn how to regulate our breath, definitely we can regulate our mind and maintain the serenity, blissful state all the time, which is very much possible with the help of Kriya Yoga. Some more data I would like to share with you, that how our breath is also correlated with our lifespan. So if you look at the rabbit, small creature, rabbit is breathing 38 times in 1 minute, but the lifespan of rabbit is 8 years. If you look at the dog, 36 breaths per minute, but it lives 9 years. And a monkey is breathing 32 times in 1 minute and lives up to 25 years. Dog is breathing 28 times a minute and it can live maximum up to 19 years. Otherwise, average lifespan of a dog is 14-15 years. If we talk about the human being, we take 15 breaths per minute as per Gheranda Samhita also, and we can live up to 100 years if we maintain our fitness all the time. In case of elephant, 10 breaths per minute, and elephant can live up to 120 years. If you look at the turtle or crocodile, 4 breaths per minute, very miser in breathing, but they can live up to 155 years. And in some cases, some turtle can live up to 300 years also. So if we look at this table, we see that as the breath rate is reducing, lifespan is increasing. And not only the lifespan, but also our quality of life increases. So regulation of breath is really important if you want to live a happy life, a quality life. So let's come to the solution part, that how we can achieve that state of serenity, bliss, and how we can live a purposeful, happy life. This art we learn in the path of Kriya Yoga. Now the question comes that what is Kriya Yoga? So let's analyze the two words. First is yoga. What is yoga? The simple meaning of yoga is union. Union of our body and soul, we can say, or it is a union of microcosm with macrocosm. Union of our individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness. Among these 6 schools of philosophy, yoga is also one school of philosophy. We have 6 schools of philosophy like Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yoga, and Uttara Mimamsa, otherwise known as Vedanta. So yoga is the philosophy. Now yoga is also goal, because if you read the classical text on yoga, Yoga Sutra of Sage Patanjali, in that it is said that yoga is the goal of life, because if it is union, then we want to be united with the divine. We want to be all the time united with our own nature, which is happiness and bliss. So yoga is the goal of life. Now, how do we achieve that goal? We have to practice yoga. So goal, yoga is the goal, and yoga is also means to achieve that goal. This word yoga is derived from Sanskrit root word yuj. Yuj means to unite, to merge, or to join. And the second word is kriya. So what is kriya? Kriya, if we split this word in two syllables, one is kri, other is ya. Again, the kri, it is derived from Sanskrit root verb kru. Kru means to do, and ya means divinity. Ya means the soul, the self within. What are the activities we perform in our life? If you observe in day-to-day life, lots of activities we are performing because we cannot remain idle. Every moment we are performing some action, whether it is verbal, mental, or physical action. If you look here in this diagram, there are 7 prominent chakras in the body, in the spine, and 2 chakras are located in the brain. So 5 in the spine, 2 in the brain. These lower 5 chakras in the spine, they take care of our 5 kinds of activities in daily life. At the base of the spine, where tailbone ends, that is called our bottom center. It is known as money center. Now, why money center? Because this center takes care of our thoughts and activities related to our property, our job, or all monetary activities. So this is financial activities, the center for financial activities. Behind the genital organ in the spine is the second center. This center is called family center. So all our thoughts or activities related to our family relationship, they are regulated by second center. Behind the navel in the spine is the navel center. We call it digestive center, which takes care of our hunger and thirst. And then above these, the heart center. Heart center is the center of emotions. Positive, negative emotions, they are regulated by this center. And behind this Adam's apple in the spine is the throat center, which is called center of religion. And this center is taking care of our noble thoughts, philosophical thoughts, good thoughts. Then 2 centers are in the brain. So in between the eyebrows, if you go approximately 12 centimeters inside the brain, this is the soul center, Agya Chakra. We call it third eye or eye of wisdom. Then on top of the head, where a baby has very soft place, that is called fontanelle sahasrara, 1000-petal lotus. These 2 centers are spiritual centers. And just to remind you that these are not centers like physically located center, but they are very subtle energy centers. We call them chakra. And with concentration, you can feel their location and also some sensations in these locations. So all these activities like financial activities, family activities, food activities, our feelings, and our faith, these are all the activities known as Kri. Now the question comes that who is performing all these activities? There is a very common understanding or notion. We always say that we are doing something means referring to the body. Suppose a person is sick, going to the doctor, and his friend is asking, where are you going? He never says that I am going to, he never says that I am taking my body to doctor, but he says that I am going to doctor. But in case that his dog is sick and he's taking his dog to doctor, he doesn't say that I am going to doctor. He says, I am taking my dog to doctor. So what is happening that in our day-to-day life, we always identify ourselves with the body, which has a name and a form. So we think that this body is performing all the activities. And Gurudev gave a beautiful example. He says that if your breath stops at this moment, what will happen? Naturally, if breath stops, we become a dead body. We are dying. So we are dead. And a dead person cannot do any activity. A dead body cannot talk or take food or do any function. Surely, when we say that I am doing, referring to the body, body is not responsible for our activities, but it is the soul within. The formless power hiding behind this body form is responsible for all our activities. And that power is known as Ya or divinity. We call it the self or soul within. Scientifically, you can say that is our pure consciousness. Without breath, no activity is possible in our body. So in general, Kriya means any activity which reminds you of the presence of divine. That becomes Kriya. Further, if you want to understand Kriya, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, second chapter, it is second book, first sutra, Sage Patanjali has explained the definition of Kriya Yoga. Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the integration of three things. Tapaha, discipline of body and mind. Swadhyaya, self-analysis, self-study, or study of scriptures. And third word is Ishwar Pranidhana, means surrender to God, unconditional love for God. So these three constitute Kriya Yoga. Now, these three words are very beautiful. Tapaha represents here path of action, Karma Yoga. Swadhyaya is the Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge. And Ishwar Pranidhana is the path of devotion, Bhakti Yoga. So these three together practiced are known as Kriya Yoga. So it is the integral yoga. That is why Kriya Yoga is not limited to some stretches or some postures, but that is just one aspect. Kriya Yoga is integral yoga which takes care of our body, mind, and our spirit simultaneously. What is Kriya Yoga? If we go further to understand, Kriya Yoga is the most ancient and scientific technique of meditation. My Gurudev used to give this definition that most ancient and scientific, and there is a valid reason behind it. When he says most ancient, because if we look back into the history of human being, we find that most ancient scriptures available in human society are the Vedas. So Vedas give reference to Kriya Yoga. In Rig Veda, there are two mantras explaining the techniques of Kriya Yoga which we practice here. So from that period of time, means from thousands of years, this Kriya Yoga has been practiced, and you can also find references to Kriya Yoga at least in 35 ancient scriptures. It includes Adhyatma Ramayana, Yoga Vasishtha, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Narad Agni Purana, then Yoga Chudamani Upanishad, Shweta Shwetar Upanishad, Mundak Upanishad, and so on. All these scriptures are dating back from 10,000 years ago to 5,000 years ago. And Kriya Yoga is a scientific technique. In the modern time, all these techniques which we practice, they are verified by the modern equipments, how they change our structure, not only the physical health we get, but also the state of mind, it changed. So everything is based on scientific affirmation and result. There are clinical studies about scientific technique of Kriya, which has proven that how this ancient technique completely transforms our body and mind and takes us to a higher level. Many times people ask that, is Kriya Yoga a different religion? Especially when I go to South America, each time there is some new religion coming up. So just to clarify that Kriya Yoga is not a religion, although the practice is from the ancient India, but it is non-sectarian. To practice Kriya Yoga, you don't need to change your belief system or your faith. It accepts you as you are. And since it's not a religion, anybody can practice it. To practice Kriya Yoga, there is no dietary restriction also. You don't need to become vegetarian. You just need to learn and practice, and whatever is conducive for your practice will remain with you, because Kriya Yoga is the natural transformation process. Who can learn Kriya Yoga? Anybody from the age of 13 and above can learn Kriya Yoga. Because by the age of 13, human brain is more developed so that we can retain the information, we can remember it. So Kriya Yoga, in short, is based on breath regulation and our concentration techniques. You don't need to do many asana or postures. It is very simple, pure meditation technique. Now, if we talk about the benefits, because a question comes to mind that if Kriya Yoga is the most ancient and it is a scientific technique, that is fine. But how it is going to help me in my day-to-day life? I want to be peaceful. I want to be successful, joyful, balanced. Then how I'm going to achieve with Kriya Yoga? Let me share some of the benefits with you. Those who practice Kriya Yoga, they get physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual benefits simultaneously. Physical benefits, that when we practice these techniques, we attain good health due to elimination of toxins from the body. When we practice more breathing, deep breathing technique called pranayama, so we release the toxins and we become free from that. Because of oxygenation of blood, the cells which are degenerating and decaying every moment, that degeneration reduces. So new cells always remain youthful. And we get relaxation of our brain activities. If we talk about the mental benefit, then our stress level is reduced. Our anxiety, our depression, all these mental problems which we suffer in day-to-day life also, we can get rid of that. We also have seen that because of practice of Kriya Yoga, a lot of people have become free from drug addiction. And I have examples. We get peaceful mind and our emotions are balanced. If we talk about the intellectual level, then naturally our confidence is increased. When we practice Kriya, we have better focus and we start living goal-oriented life. That's how we become more successful in our professional life. There increased brain efficiency. We get very sharp memory. It is my own experience also that by practice of Kriya, God has helped me to get better memory. And a spiritual benefit, that we have better understanding of our own self we develop human values like love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness. These are the values, human values we develop by practice of Kriya, and we lead a better life. And finally, we attain liberation. So to give little more about these benefits, one technique of Kriya Yoga, when we practice it, there is very gentle pressure on the liver. As a result, liver is secreting more bile and we get better digestion because the bile is mixing with the digestive juices and we get better digestion. There is gentle pressure on the pancreas. So the flow of insulin is also regulated. And in our clinical studies, we have found that the diabetic patients are benefited to great extent. Here, I would take this opportunity to share with you that my own experience. I'm not boasting that I am practicing Kriya because of that, but it is the fact that in my own family, pre-monastic family, my mother's mother, grandmother, she had diabetes. So my mother got it. And all my siblings, they got diabetes, except two in our family, myself and one of my sister, Swami Sarvatmananji. We both have no problem. So far, we are doing good. Why? Because we have been practicing Kriya since last almost 27 years. So this is the direct benefit we have experienced. There is also gentle pressure on the kidneys and our transverse colon. So all the toxins from the intestine, it can be eliminated easily and we get really good health. And when we practice the technique of Kriya, which is a breathing technique, we supply more oxygen to our brain because there is more blood flow and oxygenation of the brain saturated by oxygen. And because of that, we get better memory. When we talk about the brain, we have right cerebrum, which is responsible for our thoughts and emotions. We have left cerebrum, which takes care of our logic part, decision making. So we can say that right brain is our heart, left brain is our mind. When we practice this scientific technique of Kriya, so we get balance between these two lobes of our brain. Normally, you can find people, either they are very emotional people or they are very rational people. And we get a better balance between these two so that we have a better personality. So we get balance between these two. And what happens? By practice of Kriya, our emotions are balanced. In normal course, if we become angry for some reason, the same situation will not make us angry after some time of practicing Kriya. So immediate peace of mind, calmness, and that we can extend throughout our day. Intellectually, when we get better understanding of ourselves, we start understanding people also by practice of Kriya. And most of the conflicts arise in life because we think that we are right and others are wrong. But when we practice Kriya, we get better understanding. So we start perceiving things from others' viewpoint also, and it reduces conflict and creates a better interpersonal communication skill within the family, within the society also. And naturally, our life becomes more peaceful, more balanced. But these are the benefits which you can also get from other techniques of yoga, because there are many different branches of yoga in the modern time. But what is the real benefit of Kriya Yoga? I'll take you back to the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, in which second sutra says Patanjali has clearly mentioned the purpose of Kriya Yoga. He has mentioned two things: Samadhi bhavanartha klesha tanukaranarthascha sahi kriya yoga. Means the purpose of kriya yoga is to reduce or eliminate the sufferings, physical and mental sufferings, to reduce them, to eliminate them completely, tanukaranartha. And second is samadhi bhavanartha, to attain liberation. Remember, our highest purpose of life is to be liberated. Liberation from what? Liberation or freedom from suffering. Liberation from this cycle of birth and rebirth, which is also a suffering. We have to come because we have performed some action and we have to get the result. We have to experience that. And we are born again and again. But if we can break this cycle of birth and rebirth, once we merge with divinity, we will not be reborn. Why should we come into this world again for suffering? So we can finish our homework in this life. That is why Kriya Yoga gives guarantee for self-realization in one lifetime. Although I have practiced, I am familiar with many different types of yoga techniques, but I did not get this guarantee anywhere. But yes, in Kriya Yoga, this is a guarantee that in this very lifetime, you can be liberated if you practice sincerely, which is proven by many of our Kriyavans from Shri Lahidi Mahasaya, Shri Yukteswarji, and so on. I have not seen so many people or number of people getting samadhi state or self-realization in other organization or other techniques. I'm not comparing, but I'm telling the truth. So Kriya Yoga is unique in this way that not only we get physical, mental, and intellectual benefits, but we get the benefit of self-realization, and all other benefits are just secondary. Primary purpose is to attain liberation and to eliminate the suffering. Again, question comes that we know these benefits and how to reap these by learning Kriya Yoga. So to learn Kriya Yoga, there is a process of initiation. You can find these details in some of the books also, but to learn Kriya Yoga, you have to approach a teacher, a qualified teacher or the master, and learn it in person. By process of initiation, they purify the body, senses, and then they will teach the technique of Kriya Yoga, because it's a traditional way of guru and disciple relationship, from teacher to student directly to be learned. How did this Kriya come to us? So I'll take you to little history of Kriya Yoga. In Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 1st and 2nd verse, Lord Krishna has explained to Arjuna. He says that imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivaswan manave praha manu ikshvaku abravit evam parampara praptam imam rajarashyo viduhu sa kalena ihe mahata yogo nashta parantapa. He's telling that, oh Arjuna, in the beginning of creation, the creator, the supreme reality himself, gave the knowledge of Kriya Yoga to first king of solar dynasty, whose name is Vivaswana. And then Vivaswan taught it to the next king, Manu, and from Manu it was given to Ikshvaku. These are the names of the kings in royal dynasty. And by the tradition of guru disciple, parampara, this knowledge was transferred to the next generations. But after the battle of Mahabharata, this Kriya Yoga remained limited to some holy people who were living in caves and caverns of Himalayas. And in the modern time, for a long period of time, the common men were not aware of Kriya Yoga. And in modern time, in 1861, an immortal yogi, whose name is Mahavatar Babaji, he brought this science of Kriya Yoga back to common people by initiating Shri Lahidi Mahasaya, and that was 1861. Lahiri Mahasaya was simple householder yogi, having his family, his job, and along with that, he practiced and attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest state of yoga. Then he taught it to many of the people, and among them there are two prominent disciples, Swami Shri Yukteswarji and Bhupendranath Sanyal Mahasaya. These two are also householder yogis. Only in the old age, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, he took the vow of renunciation, became a monk. But Sanyal Mahasaya, he still remained as householder, and Swami Shri Yukteswarji had three prominent monk disciples. Paramahansa Yoganandaji, who came to the West in 1920, and he brought knowledge of Kriya Yoga to the Western Hemisphere. His childhood friend Swami Satyanandaji remained in India to take care of his organization. And third disciple of Swami Shri Yukteswarji is our master, my master, Paramahansa Hariharanandaji, who came to West in 1974. And he left his body in Homestead, Miami in Florida. He stayed closer to 6 years of his life, in the last 6 years of his life in USA, in our mother center. In 2002, he left his physical frame, but before that, he has already appointed his next spiritual successor, Paramahansa Pragyananandaji Maharaj, who is the current master of this lineage. And most of you have already seen him, who is constantly traveling throughout the globe to spread the word of Kriya Yoga, as well as in many humanitarian projects. He has been helping a lot of people throughout the globe. He's a very prolific writer. Almost 130 books he has written in last 21 years. And his message is simple message that love everyone unconditionally. So this is the lineage or family of our masters. Through them, this Kriya Yoga has come to us. We are so fortunate that this ancient and scientific technique is available with us, and we can learn it by the qualified teachers from our lineage. Remember, life is full of challenges. We can never expect that we will sit calmly, very comfortably, and everything will go well. That is ideal condition. Every moment we have to face challenges in our life. Every moment there are situations we have to deal with. And as a result, we have to also face many problems. We have to go through sometimes stressful situations, anxiety, fearful situation for many reasons. But there is a way to remain peaceful. There's a way to serenity and bliss. Not only when we meditate by learning the technique of Kriya Yoga, but we can maintain that state of serenity all the time throughout the activities. My master used to give a beautiful example that if you have to fill gasoline in your car, I think in Australia they call petrol. So if you have to fill it in the car, it takes hardly 5 minutes. But with that 5 minutes filling of gasoline or fuel in the car, you can run the car for hundreds of kilometers throughout the day. You can run. So also just meditating 5 minutes, it charges our battery. And to practice Kriya Yoga, it takes hardly 37 minutes in one sitting. One can begin with 20 minutes, 30 minutes time and see how it transforms our life. It is a gift from the divine. My master also reminded always that opportunity must not be neglected, for it may never return. Who knows that there will be breath in this body or not tomorrow? We are not sure. So this is the beautiful opportunity we can learn this technique, apply it in our life, and transform it to remain joyful, peaceful, to remain in love and in knowledge. I am praying to Supreme Almighty. I am praying to the masters to give us all-round development, more love, peace, prosperity. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santo Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I would request you all to contact your local center, your center leaders. Whenever there is initiation program, you can take this opportunity to learn and practice Kriya Yoga. And those who are already practicing, try to increase your practice and see how fast we can reach our goal of life to attain liberation, self-realization. Thank you all.